Hey, it is 12 noon on Friday, which means it's time for this week's episode of State of Real Estate. I'm John Chrisman. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. You see, I got my Tampa School of Real Estate green on today, the official color of the Tampa School of Real Estate. And what we're talking about today is a topic that you should really take hold of if you want to take your real estate business to the next level. Even if you're just trying to get your business started, this is important. It's how to obtain more listings. We're going to be talking about why you want listings and then also how to go about getting more of these listings. So stick with us. We got a great show for you today. I'm John Chrisman. You're watching State of Real Estate.
You are watching
State of Real Estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Grow your real estate business. You're watching State of Real Estate. Hey, welcome to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. I'm John Chrisman. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. If you're interested in starting or enhancing your real estate career, make sure you give us a call. Phone number is 813-928-0106. You can also check us out online at tampaschool.com. That's tampaschool.com. Or maybe you're just checking out these videos thinking about a career in real estate. Then you'll definitely want to check out our Pass First Try, our recommended strategy to pass your real estate license exams on the first try, and that's available at passfirsttry.com. But now to today's topic of discussion, real estate listings. So first, just in case, real introductory here, what is a real estate listing? Well, a listing is where you as a realtor have gone to a seller and convinced the seller that if you are able to market the property and procure a buyer ready and willing to purchase the property at their agreed upon terms, that they'll pay you in return a commission. So that's what a listing is. It's you basically representing the seller in the sale, and you're marketing this property. Now, why do you want these listings? Well, first and foremost, you're the one that's in control. You're the one that basically dictates what that commission is. Well, you're negotiating with your seller, but if you're a good negotiator, you're basically dictating what that commission is going to be charged for this year. And you're splitting this commission typically 50% to you, 50% to the other side, or however it is that you want to split it up. The point is that you're in control of that. If you're representing the buyer's agents, if you're a buyer's agent representing a buyer, you're bringing a buyer to the transaction, but it's the seller's agents that already has basically said, okay, well, you're going to make this much money if you bring a buyer to the sale. And it's pretty much already said and done. Whereas when you're representing the seller, you get to negotiate this amount up front. You get to negotiate out, and really it's your decision of how much money is going to be paid to any cooperating brokers in the transaction. So you have a lot more control here. Now, this is the big thing why you want listings, and you want to snatch up as many listings as you can. And really a couple reasons. The first one I want to talk about, and this one will appeal to not those of you that are lazy, but it will appeal to people that are lazy, but people that are wanting to work with as many clients as possible, to have as much business lined up as possible. This is really where listings come into play, because according to the National Association of Realtors, it takes on average 8 hours to close a listing client, to close a seller on a listing, versus 24 hours to close a buyer, representing the buyer, trying to help them find a house. And it makes sense, because you think about working with a buyer, you've got to show them probably at a minimum 3 properties. And that's if you're really good at pre-qualifying them for what type of property it is that they want, and you've really got it dialed in. Even then, you're probably showing them at least 3 properties. You might be showing them 15, 20 properties, maybe 30 properties, and maybe they don't end up buying anything at all, so that drives up your average there. If you do the buyers right, you can get it done in a lot less time than the 24 hours, but the average from the National Association of Realtors says that on average it takes 24 hours worth of time to close a buyer versus 8 hours of working time to close a seller. So a third of the time on a listing, 3 times as much time that you're having to put in on a buyer. And if we're talking about if we're talking about a $200,000 home with a 3% commission, 3% that you're earning on the selling side, 3% that you're earning on the buying side, you're getting paid $6,000 either way. But now are you going to work 8 hours for that $6,000? You're going to work 24 hours for that $6,000. I mean, both of them, they divide out to a pretty decent payday, especially considering only a $200,000 property. You talk about a $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 property, and now all of a sudden it's still a great payday either side, but you're able to use your time much more effectively working with the seller on the listing side. Now, the con on the listing side that steers, and not really steers, but scares a lot of real estate professionals away from wanting to work with sellers and actively seeking out working with sellers and acquiring listings is because, yes, there is cost associated with marketing a listing, especially if you're trying to double in the sale. But hey, if you're able to get that other 3% to snatch up the other half of the commission and you get both sides of the commission, whatever extra money you spent is probably going to be worth it. But that's what scares away a lot of seller's agents, or a lot of real estate professionals, from becoming a seller's agent, from working with sellers, from trying to seek out people that want to list their property. Yeah, it's a little bit easier on the buyer side because, at least at first, it's definitely easier up front on the buyer side than it is on the seller side. On the seller side, your work is mostly kind of condensed to the front end of the transaction. It's mostly condensed to when you're first in the transaction, you first get everything up and running, you're initially negotiating what that commission amount is going to be. You're representing a buyer. Okay, oh yeah, you want to go look at houses? Sure, let's go. Oh, we should get you to do a pre-approval. Okay, cool, let's get that. Okay, cool, you're pre-approved. Okay, let's look at some houses. And now the hard part comes of trying to find that house it is that's perfect for them. And then once you found that house that's perfect for them, then having it inspected and making sure it appraises and making sure that they're okay with the homeowners association and the CDD and all of these other kind of variables that are up in the air that are involved on the buyer side. So on the buyer side, it's a lot more work in the back end once you've kind of got the ball rolling. It's almost like a snowball effect working with a buyer. You start off with just a little snowball, you start rolling it, it starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and if you're pushing the snowball up a hill, it's all of a sudden a lot more difficult to push the snowball up a hill. Now with a seller, it's almost like you're going to be pushing downhill, and it's a large boulder that you have to push, and initially getting it moving is going to take some work. But once you get that boulder moving, and that's on the seller side of this, once you get that boulder kind of, you get your work behind it, and you push it, and you've got it moving, so it takes a lot more work up front on the seller side. But once that's rolling down the hill, it might get stuck somewhere, and you might have to get in there, do a price reduction, get that boulder unstuck, and get it moving again. But ultimately on the seller side, you're doing a lot more work up front, which scares a lot of people away from working with sellers. On the buyer side, however, that work's going to come. It's just not until later in the transaction. So there's pros and cons to each, and you don't always get to choose what it is that the client wants. Maybe the client not only needs to buy a home, but also sell their home. So you get to play both roles and wear both hats in that case there. But when you're actively seeking out business, you should be actively seeking out sellers as much as possible. You shouldn't be afraid of the initial workload and the initial cost, because it'll cost money. It'll cost your time to hold an open house. It'll cost your time to print up your money to print up flyers, to get a sign out there. Maybe you don't have a sign. Well, look, if you're in the real estate business, you need a sign. If you don't want to spend the money on a sign yet, find a broker that has signs that they'll provide for you. It's not going to be personalized with all of your info on it, so not the greatest for the long run, but especially when you're first starting out and you're strapped for cash, get a broker that's got the signs for you already. It'll make your job a lot less expensive. So yes, there's all those things up front with all this here, but once you've got that initial workload done, it's smooth sailing for the most part. As opposed to the buyer, you're sailing into the storm, whereas the seller, you're kind of sailing out of the storm, or you're still going to be kind of whipped around a little bit by some waves as you're moving away from it, but you've done the work, and now you're waiting for the buyer to move in and do their work and do their job in this transaction. So you're still going to be involved throughout the process, but most of the work, most of the time, most of the money, most of the effort is going to be spent on the beginning of working with the seller versus on the back end working with the buyer. But now, last thing, before we go on to commercial break, and this is really the third thing, and this should be the one, if not the most important reason why you should be acquiring listings as much as possible. The reason why you should always be acquiring listings, nonstop, always seeking out more listings, is because in real estate, as a real estate professional, that is your product. That is what you're offering for sale. And you might say, well, John, that's not my product. I don't even own it. And if we want to talk about that, then really I have thousands of homes in the MLS that are my product. And you're right. You have access to thousands of homes in the MLS that you could show a potential buyer. But does the buyer know that? No, the common misconception is, oh, this is the realtor with this house, so therefore I need to call that realtor with that house if I want that house. That's the general misconception with the public. And when they think about moving or they think about purchasing a home, they're not thinking about, oh, what realtor do I want to use? They're thinking about, oh, what house do I want? Where do I want to live? They're going on Zillow or Truly or even Realtor.com or any of these sites that syndicate all this listing data out there. They're going on these sites trying to find a home it is that they want. They're not trying to find a realtor. Usually what happens, especially with these sites with Zillow, Truly, or any of these sites that are basically selling leads of people that are interested in houses, they're finding the houses and the realtors just go along with the house. He's like, oh, you're the realtor that represents this house? Okay, cool, yeah, I want to buy this house. Now, if you're the seller agent in this case here, not only on sites like Zillow are you going to be right at the top. Yeah, Zillow's going to go and advertise other agents right below you there unless you pay them extra money a month to be the exclusive person on that listing. That's their thing there. But hey, they're the #1 search portal on the internet as far as consumers going on there. But so you've got that basically guaranteed, that top spot, not just on Zillow, but anywhere it is that you go. The sign in front of the property, if someone's just simply driving through the neighborhood and they say, oh, look at that house, you know what, I wouldn't mind living here. Maybe they're visiting a friend or a family member and they think to themselves, oh God, I wish I could live here. And then they drive by, they see the house for sale. Look, we can live here. There's a house for sale. Oh, let's call that number on the sign. And let's call the realtor for this property. And again, they're not thinking about, oh, I wish I could find a realtor for this area. Again, they're thinking about, oh, I wish I could find a home for this area. So by acquiring listings, you now have inventory. Just like you wouldn't go to a Home Depot or a Best Buy or any of these retail stores, you wouldn't go to these stores if they didn't have any products in stock. The only reason these stores exist today is to get these products, get the instant gratification of these products. And if they didn't have this inventory, they wouldn't exist. They're built on that inventory. And if they didn't have the inventory, they wouldn't exist. That's the same thing that works for real estate professionals. If you don't have the inventory, people aren't going to come seeking you out. Because you could go out and do advertisements that say, oh, I'm the best realtor out there. I'm the best real estate professional in the world. Call me today. But if you do something like that, they're not too excited about calling you. Oh, look at this guy. He's a cheesy realtor that's got a great big smile in his picture. Oh, yeah, he looks like he wants to take some money from me. That's what people are thinking in their heads. But if they see a house that's a beautiful house that they love, that's a house that they would like to live in, they'll say, wow, look at that house. Oh, honey, don't you want to live in this house? Look at this house. Look how beautiful this house is. Yeah, you want to go see this house? Look, there's a number we could call here. We call this John Charisma guy. Let's call him up and see if we can go tour the house. So now when you have these properties, when you have these listings, you have the ability to advertise these and market them beautifully. And then also that's going to help you out with sellers that are thinking about selling their house because they're the ones who are thinking, I need a realtor. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about some tactical, practical strategies you can implement in your business to get more listings because that'll help make your job easier, it'll help you make more money. Stick with us. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes. Are you thinking about a career in real estate? Hey, I'm John Charisma with the Tampa School of Real Estate, and we've helped thousands of people just like you obtain their real estate license. If you're thinking about a career in real estate, give us a call. The phone number is 813-928-0106. Our advisors are standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way they can.
Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com.
Hey,
If you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You are watching
State of Real Estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Grow your real estate business. You're watching State of Real Estate. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. I'm John Christman, and the show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate, hence my Tampa School of Real Estate green button down I've got on today. If you're interested in starting or enhancing your career, check out tampaschool.com or give us a call, 813-928-0106. Yes, I said that fast because you've got all that information here at the bottom of the screen for when you drift off while I'm talking on this week's episode of State of Real Estate. But we do the show every Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time, to help you mastermind and grow your real estate business. And even if that means you're just starting out your real estate business, you're growing it from nothing to something, these videos will definitely help you out with that. And especially the topic we're talking about today, it's going to help push you in that right direction. And that right direction is chasing sellers, or ideally getting sellers to chase you. Yeah, it's okay to work with buyers. I'm not saying to turn away buyers because somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I want to buy a home, but they are more work. And you should never be turning down clients. That's always the big thing I've always said, is you should never be turning down clients. At the very least, you should be taking that client and referring it out to somebody else and just at least collecting a smaller portion, 15, 20, 25, 30% referral fee, whatever it is you get the other agent to agree to take on that. So you should always be taking on that business. And really, ideally, if you've got nothing better to do, you're working with that buyer. And then you're getting that whole 100% commission and not just 25, 30% of that. But at the very least, even if you're very busy, at least get their information, get them set up for an appointment, and have somebody come in there that you could refer this out to. But listings. So again, the reasons why you want to take on the listings. Number one, they're less work in the long run. It's a third of the amount of time it takes to close a seller versus a buyer. A buyer, on average, takes about 24 hours, according to the NAR, to close, 24 hours of working time. 8 hours of time when you're working with a seller on a listing. So that's one of the reasons. Second reason, other than that less amount of time, is you get the work done up front and get it out of the way with. Yeah, there's more work up front on a listing. It's going to cost you money up front to market it, to especially bringing a professional photographer, dealing with a property that's anywhere over, really any property benefits from having a professional photographer, but anytime you're dealing with at least over $150,000 or over, there should be no reason why you don't have a professional photographer. And no, you don't count as a professional photographer unless you legitimately are a professional photographer. So that's going to cost you money. There's these costs that are associated with obtaining a listing, whereas there's really not much cost other than your time working with the buyer, but you get that out of the way. You've done your work up front, and now, especially if you've set yourself up well, it's kind of a waiting game until you get a buyer's agent that comes along, or you continue to market this, and now you get both sides of the commission. And finally, the last thing, and this goes back to the getting both sides of the commission, is you're marketing this property. The more effective it is that you market the property, not only are you multiplying your chances of getting both sides of the commission, getting your half of the commission as well as the buyer's agent half of the commission, so doubling your normal commission if somebody else sold it, but you're also, because not everyone that calls you about that house is going to want to buy that house. Unless you've got the greatest property in the world and it's severely underpriced, that's the only time you're maybe going to have somebody that wants to buy, have a bunch of people wanting to buy that same property. But chances are a majority of the people calling in on that property aren't going to want to buy that property, although they want to buy a house. That's why they called you in the first place. So you've got inventory, and now you can kind of make that segue. Oh, well, I know this house doesn't seem right for you guys here. And you could pick up on these things. Oh, I know this one doesn't seem like it's right for you guys. But I do have a couple other properties I'm thinking of that I think you guys might like. And then you kind of segue into moving into that. And yes, you're now working with them as a buyer's agent, which, yes, it's going to be more work. But, hey, it's also more money. And at really either side of this, 24 hours or 8 hours, and those are just averages. It could take longer with the seller and it could take shorter with the buyer. Those are just average numbers. It kind of also depends on your skill level with this as well. But what I want to talk about now are some different avenues you could explore to get more listings. Because this whole episode we're doing today is how to get more listings. And first, and that's why we spend so much time talking about the why you want listings, is the motivation and the desire to have these listings, because some of these things we're going to talk about, these avenues to get listings, you're really fighting a lot of cases, especially so right now the Tampa Bay area, for the most part, most of the Tampa Bay area, it's definitely a seller's market where the sellers are able to get higher prices because there's low inventory. There's not a lot of homes available for sale. And when there's not a lot of homes available for sale, that drives prices up. But at the same time, it makes it harder for real estate professionals to secure a listing. When it's a buyer's market, meaning there's a lot of inventory, everyone wants to sell, or there's a lot of people at least that want to sell, so there's not as much competition, but inventory starts to go down, and now that creates competition between real estate professionals. You're maybe interviewing against 2 or 3 other agents, and now what is it that's going to make you stand out against those other agents? So yes, you're kind of up for a little bit of a battle trying to obtain some of these listings sometimes. Unless you get to the point of you're saturating your market, you're farming your market, and you seem like the only viable option. In that case, you've got the sellers chasing you, and that makes your job a lot easier. But overall, again, so I want to go back now into the different methods and these different avenues we have to basically try to pick up some listings. So first one I want to talk about is if we're dealing with expired and withdrawn listings. So in the MLS, you could look up expired and withdrawn listings, and that gives you their address. And for basically no cost, you could take that address, put it in your GPS, and yes, there is a cost of the gas in your car, but if you're worried about the gas in your car, you're going to have a hard time in real estate. So yes, it's going to cost you some gas, but you got to be more confident in yourself. If you're worried about the gas it's taking you to go to this property, then you don't have enough confidence in yourself. Build up that confidence. Say, yeah, I'm going to spend this gas. I'm going to spend $5 worth of gas, but I'm going to get to this house and set an appointment with the seller, and then I'm going to ultimately end up getting a $5,000, $10,000 commission. So the cheapest route is, just like I said, the cost of that gas, and especially if you're sticking close to somewhere it is you're located, you're not even traveling that far, because in the MLS, you can find these expired and withdrawn listings, and you can find the address. Now, again, in a competitive marketplace where it's a seller's market where there's low inventory, there's probably a lot of agents that are pursuing these expired and withdrawn listings. Yes, going there in person will make an impact, but chances are they're probably not going to be home. Unless you're timing this right, for an average person, maybe 6 o'clock at night or something like that, 6 to 7, that type of hour. You're going there, and you don't want to go much later than that and much earlier than that. They're likely not to be home, and that doesn't work for everyone, but that's going to set you up with really good chances that they are home. So you go during that time period, even if they got other people calling them, which we'll talk about how you get these phone numbers and whatnot in a second, but even if they have people calling them, if you're showing up in person, so people have more than just one sense. If you're calling them on the phone, you're only tapping into their ability to hear. They can hear you, but are they even really listening to you? Now, when you're there in person, not only can they hear what it is that you're saying, but they could see you. They could see you looking like a professional with your little company logo shirt or your name tag and your business card and all these things that make you look like a professional. They maybe smell that you're a professional. You don't come in there like smelling like you haven't showered in a week or something like that. So, and these are just little things that they're maybe not picking up on, but maybe it's going on subconsciously. And it's probably not subconsciously if you do smell. So make sure you're smelling good when you go to any of these. Don't load yourself up with cologne or anything like that either, because you'll drive them off. They'll be coughing before they even open the door. But you're able to tap into all these senses, even touch. Now, don't go like kind of crazy touching them because people freak out about that. But the handshake, that's tapping into the touch. So by being there in person, you're able to tap into all these other senses. And you say, well, what am I showing up for? You're knocking on the door. Say, hey, I'm John Charisma. I'm from ABC Realty, and I noticed that you tried to sell your house a few months back. I'm just trying to get some better data for this market here, because I've been looking at working with a couple of sellers here. What was the reason you didn't end up selling your house? And, at this point here, you're not coming across as somebody that's saying, hey, I noticed you sold it. And notice how I didn't just say, hey, I saw you try to sell your house 6 months ago. You ready to try to sell it now at a lower price? they're going to slam the door in your face. But if you kind of open up with an open-ended question like that, what was the reason why you didn't end up selling the property? I'm curious. This is a very popular neighborhood, and then you start diving deeper into it. And ultimately, your goal is to get some sort of appointment. Now, you could also call these contacts, these expired and withdrawn listings. And again, just in case you're lost on this here, an expired listing is, so when you're representing a seller, you go in and you sign, let's say, a 6-month or a 1-year listing agreement, and they sign off on this paperwork. And after that date, yes, you could have them sign another extension paper, but basically with expired, it means you ran out of time. You ran out of time, you didn't sell the property, either you didn't want to continue try selling, or either the seller didn't want you to continue trying to sell the property. That's what an expired listing is. A withdrawn listing is basically where the same thing happens, but it gets cut short. So expired means you run out of time. Withdrawn means that you basically, the seller cut it short. They say, you know what, I don't want to sell right now, or I don't want to sell with you right now, or whatever the reason may be, but they basically withdraw their listing. They take their listing off the market. That's what a withdrawn listing is. So like I said, you could call these people as well. Now, where do you get these phone lists? There's all kinds of services online that you could Google for realtor, real estate phone list, or that type of stuff where, you're going to pay a decent price. I mean, in the long run of this, especially with as many phone numbers as you're getting, especially if you have a good tactic and strategy behind this, it's really the cost is minimal compared to what the return can be on these here. But yeah, it's gonna cost you some money up front, and you might not have that money, which is okay. Hopefully you've got gas in your car, and then you could drive out to them and go through and door knock on the door like I just explained for you to do. And then while you're there, just knock on some other doors and say, hey, my name is John, and I was looking at this house down the street that was for sale for a while ago. Do you guys know what happened? I'm just trying to get some insights on what's going on in the neighborhood. So you could always do that as well and kind of introduce yourself to the neighborhood. So that's overall good. Yes, it's going to cost you more time doing it that way, but it's less money overall that's going to cost you to drive out there and just spend your time. Now, if you've got the money to spend and you don't want to have to worry about driving out there, especially if it's hot out and that's no fun to do door knocking there, or if you just want to be able to touch more people and really kind of bang these out and get a whole list of 50, 60, 100 different expired listings and withdrawn listings and get all the phone numbers for these. Now, you want to make sure you're compliant with the do not call list and whatnot. Most of these services will scrub the list for you. They'll basically run every single phone number through the do not call list and see if they're on the do not call list. So they'll pre-check that all for you so you can see which numbers are the ones you should not call because they're on the do not call list. But now when you're on the phone, you can do the exact same thing I was saying you're doing in person. You're calling up and you're saying, hey, my name's John Kursman with ABC Realty, and I saw that your house was expired 6 months ago or however long it was. I'm trying to do some research on this neighborhood. I'm just curious, what was the reason why you didn't sell? And so now you're kind of opening them up. You don't go straight for the throat and say, hey, do you want to sell? Because they'll probably just hang up on you. It's a lot easier for them to hang up on you than it is to close the door in your face, although they'll do either if you're off-putting enough to them. But you start off with these open up, kind of peeling back the layers type of questions. Hey, what was the reason why it was that you guys didn't end up selling the property? What happened there? And then just let them speak. Don't give them options. Don't say, oh, was it your realtor? Was it because of the price? Was it because of the market? Don't let them come up with don't give them options, because they'll just say, oh yeah, all of those things. Okay, well, that doesn't help you out now as the telemarketer, as the salesperson, as the person trying to get business off of this here. So you want to, like I said, try to pull apart and get that true, honest feedback of what happened. They might say, oh, you know what, maybe it was the market. And especially if the market has changed since it was when the property was listed. Yeah, maybe 6 months ago it wouldn't have sold for the price they had it listed for, but maybe inventory has dropped. Maybe demand has gone up, and maybe it would now sell for that current price. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Okay, what was the price that it was at, and would it sell now? Now, before you pick up the phone and start making calls, you don't need to do this research on every single property. If you do that research on every single property, you're going to be so disappointed when you've done all this research. You spent an hour trying to find out, okay, yes, this property could sell right now, only to find out that they're not answering their phone and the number's actually disconnected or something like that, and it's just a bad number. So no, you're just going through calling these numbers and say, hey, I'd like to set an appointment to come out and do a market market analysis of your home to see if now would be a good time to sell it at that current price. What time would be good for you? And you do something like that, and no obligation, no pressure. I just want to see if this would be a good time, and if it is a good time, I would like to present my offering to you and show you how I could get better results than what you had done previously. But that's totally up to you guys here. But first and foremost, I just want to see if this is even possible. Is that okay with you? Would Tuesday at 3 p.m. be good? And see and now you want to do the yes or no questions, because now you want to make it easy for them to say yes. And if they give you the no, if they say, oh no, I'm not busy. Okay, well, how about 5 o'clock? Would that be okay? I have an opening at 5 p.m. Oh no, that's not too good either. Oh, what day would be good for you? And if they still say, oh, I'm not too sure, I have to look at my calendar. Well, here, look, why don't I just pencil you in for Wednesday at noon? Or whatever time. Again, you kind of ask these questions to get a feel for, okay, is days or evenings better, weekdays or weekends better, and just try to get some sort of appointment. Because if you don't have any appointment to go there, you're not going to end up getting a contract, you're not going to end up getting a listing, you're definitely not going to end up getting a sale. So reverse engineering that, in order to get a sale, you have to have the contract, and before you have the contract, you have to have the listing. Before you have the listing, you have to have the appointment. You take the appointment out of the equation, and now we don't have any of those dominoes that fall after that. So you have to get the appointment here. If not on this phone call, then you better be calling them back. Well, what would be a good time for me to call you to find out what time would be good for me to meet with you? At the very least, do something like that, although try to pencil in some sort of a tentative appointment that you'll confirm prior to that actual appointment. But that's a good way to work with the expires and withdraws. There are really a lot of properties out there with the expires and withdraws that can be lucrative, and yes, it's competitive, especially the day after these expired and withdrawns become expired or withdrawn, because you're not allowed, due to the Realtor Code of Ethics or Realtor rules or whatever it is, you're not allowed to actively pursue clients of other realtors. So if there's another realtor out there that has a listing, you'll get yourself in trouble with the Association of Realtors if you go try to say, hey, dump your realtor and sign with me. But once that listing agreement expires, or if it's withdrawn, once that occurs, once that status flips over in the MLS and you have their phone number, that same day, they're going to be getting all kinds of calls from all kinds of realtors trying to swoop in and see if they get them right there. But they're not going to get everybody. There are going to be some people that say, hey, look, I just want to wait. So that's why it's good to continue to go back to these old leads, especially if their house hasn't sold yet. If the house already sold, then they probably don't want to spend time calling them. But if the house still hasn't sold, and maybe it's been 6 months or 8 months or maybe even a year, they're probably still open to the idea of selling. They wanted to sell before, they tried to sell before, but they couldn't. And especially if there's been a market change, you might be able to sell it at the price they wanted a year ago or 6 months ago or whatever that may be. So those are, like I said, a really great potential for listings that definitely gets tapped. And now, if you do go into one of these scenarios with these expired and withdrawn listings, if it was overpriced before and it's still overpriced, that's where you want to go into them saying, hey, look, this price that you guys have right here, how many showings were you getting? Oh, you weren't getting many showings. Okay. How many offers did you end up getting? Do you remember? Oh, you only got 2 offers on the property. Well, so when I see things like that, that tells me that the price was higher than what people are willing to pay. Would you agree? Okay, yeah, and then they'll obviously say that they'll agree with this here. If not, then work on that and kind of open them up a little bit more, find out why they disagree. And ultimately, you're trying to basically make them come to the idea that, okay, our house was overpriced, so yeah, we should try to sell it for a little bit less. You want to obviously have a better marketing plan and a better strategy than their previous agent used before, but at the same time, even with that, and that's where you want to stress it, you can't put the burden on you. You're going to do everything it is that you can, but it doesn't matter if you're the greatest realtor in the world. If the price is overpriced, it's overpriced. Sometimes it might even be overpriced or it wouldn't appraise for that value, and you won't even be able to get any financing on it. And a cash buyer is definitely not going to overpay for a listing. So again, you want to try to get that price down to begin with. Unless maybe, and that's maybe the only time you want to keep the price change if there has been a drastic price change with that. But this is kind of getting into the nitty gritty on this stuff here. We'll do another one of these state of real estates here talking about these expired and withdrawn listings, because there's a lot of things I could download onto you guys about these. So we'll do that with another show. We're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, I want to talk about some of these other methods it is that you could pursue for obtaining listings. So stick with us. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes. Are you thinking about a career in real estate? Hey, I'm John Chrisma with the Tampa School of Real Estate, and we've helped thousands of people just like you obtain their real estate license. If you're thinking about a career in real estate, give us a call. The phone number is 813-928-0106. Our advisors are standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way they can.
Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com.
I have done for my love.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You are watching
State of Real Estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Grow your real estate business. You're watching State of Real Estate. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. Every Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time, we come to you live to mastermind, to grow, enhance, take your real estate business to that next level, even if that means taking it from nothing to something. And again, that's every Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time. Make sure you're subscribed to the stream if you haven't already. Go to tampaschool.com/success, tampaschool.com/success. Drop your email in there and you'll automatically get notified anytime it is that we do one of these live streams to mastermind and grow your real estate business. And also check out that website, tampaschool.com, if you're interested in starting or enhancing your real estate career, especially on the Success Center, tampaschool.com/success. We've got a lot of great videos that'll help you get your real estate business on its feet or help take your real estate business to the moon. So definitely make sure you're checking that out. But what we're talking about today is how to get more listings, how to get more sellers. We talked about the why because of all these different reasons, but primarily it's less work and it ultimately has a bigger payoff in the end, especially when you consider how much ripple effect it is you could achieve with a listing, having that inventory. We talked about the expired and withdrawn listings, which are one of the biggest sources for obtaining listings, especially when you don't have any listings, you're trying to seek them out. These are people that have wanted to sell but couldn't have sold, so maybe you could go in there and convince them to sell at a lower price and get it done, or maybe it just takes a little bit better hand at this, especially if you pull up the previous listing on this and you've got little crappy pictures that are taken with phones and maybe a little bit of a finger holding over the camera and that type of stuff. That marketing really does make a big difference in not only the price it is you could sell the property for, but also how many people you have interested in the property. You get more people interested in the property, you can maybe entice a bidding war where people are trying to outbid one another and the seller's like, oh yeah, keep going, higher, higher, higher. So that's the expired and withdrawn listings. A couple other methods we have to acquire listings. So I want to talk about one that's kind of similar to the expired and withdrawns, except for it's a little bit different. So Zillow, as much as most real estate agents despise Zillow, it's a force to be reckoned with. It's the #1 search portal online for real estate by the amount of consumers that go on there. Everyone knows who Zillow is. They might not know what a realtor is, but they know what Zillow is. And what Zillow has is this feature called Make Me Move. So as a property owner, you could go in there as the owner of the property, not a real estate professional or anything like that. You go in there, click on your house, say, I'm the owner, and you could go in there, make me move for X amount of dollars. This price is the price that would make me want to move. I'm not selling my house, but if you want to pay this price, I would consider selling the house. And a lot of times these make me move prices are just ridiculous, just way higher than a price that a home would sell for. They're saying, well, I really don't want to move, but you pay me $1 million for my home that's worth $200,000, then I will move. So you'll find a lot of that on there, and especially when there's these big disparities. And this one you could obviously see there's a little bit more time it takes. But with these Make Me Moves, you're typically going to have the phone number right then and there. So you don't even have to pay for some extra list or something like that. You should absolutely go to donotcall.gov and check to make sure it's not in the do not call list for all this stuff here, because you are still telemarketing if you're calling them. Or also you could go out there and knock on the door. Hey, I saw that you had a Make Me Move listing online. I'm the real estate professional in this area. Do you mind if we set an appointment where I can give you a free home valuation to find out if that is a price with the right marketing that we could get this home sold for? And they would probably say, oh yeah, that actually sounds pretty good. But with this Make Me Move thing here, you'll find, yes, there's a lot of them that are going to be way higher than they should be, and they're just completely out of the range, and that's because they're just like, yeah, I don't really want to move, but, if the price is right, then yeah, why not? But sometimes you'll find people with that mentality that they're not 100% aware of what their home is actually worth. Maybe they're asking for $300,000 and the home's worth about $250,000. That's not too far off. That's not too far off. Now, with this here, one of the big things you have to take into consideration is how much they owe against their mortgage. If they owe $290,000 and they want $300,000, then yeah, you don't have much wiggle room in that here, especially if it's worth $250,000, unless they're willing to go through a short sale and that type of stuff. But if it's just a Make Me Move client, not worth your time, because they're probably not going to want to do that. But when they're close, and especially if they've owned the property for a while, that's a big indicator that they probably have a lower mortgage payoff unless they've refinanced the home and that made it drive up higher. But that's something definitely to take into account. And the Make Me Move, it's not going to be probably as lucrative as the expired and withdrawn listings, but these ones, you go on Zillow for free and go find these Make Me Move listings. They never got the phone number there for you. Address, phone number, everything you need already listed online, and they're at least thinking about selling. They're maybe not ready to sell unless they get this astronomical price for it, but they're thinking about selling. And now any of these people it is that you come across, whether it's an expired listing or a withdrawn listing you're contacting or one of these Make Me Moves, you should absolutely get their contact info and follow up with them. And now that's a different follow-up than the real estate licensing exam term for follow-up. That in that case, they're looking for what's done after the sale. But right now what I'm talking about is staying in contact with these people that you have had contact with before, and establishing yourself, marketing to them that you are the real estate professional. With the technology that exists today in marketing, not only can you send them postcards and letters and this direct print mail, you could absolutely do that, but at the same time you could also send them emails for virtually almost no cost or very little cost if you're using one of these email subscription systems. So you could do that, and you could automate a lot of this stuff where you're not just sending to them, you're sending this newsletter out to maybe hundreds of sellers it is that you've accumulated, seller leads you've accumulated over the past year or years that are interested in selling their property. You don't want to just say, oh, you want to buy? Nope, and just toss them away. Or you want to sell? Nope, and just toss them away. Say, oh, you want to sell? No? Oh, you mean not yet. You don't tell them that because they'll think that you're being condescending, but that's what you want to think in your head. They say, oh no, we really don't want to sell. We love it here. Oh great, that's fantastic. But hey, look, I'd love to stay in touch with you guys here. Send you a free home report every so often here, just so you can stay up to date on what your home's value is actually worth. And I don't charge you guys anything for that, since you're in the neighborhood that I'm assigned to at my brokerage, or whatever reason it is that you have that you're staying in touch with them. And most of the time you say, oh yeah, that sounds great. And you'll get their contact information. Now don't just throw the contact information away. Actually engage with them. Follow up with them, maybe find them on Facebook and add them and like their pictures of their whatever that they're posting on there, and so that way they remember that you're the real estate professional, so when that day does come that they want to sell, you're ready to go. Now another way you could acquire some listings, and this works great especially if you already have your own listing. If you already have a listing, hopefully multiple listings, but even if you just have one listing, doing an open house at that listing, because by doing an open house at the listing, yeah, you're probably going to get a lot of nosy neighbors kind of wandering in there, but it's probably not just that they're nosy. they're nosy, if they're good at being nosy, they probably already know what that house looks like and everything that needs to be known about the house. But they're probably thinking about selling their house themselves. And they want to see what this house is like and what this home is selling for and what the condition's like on the inside for what it's selling at. And they're thinking about this, and this is going through their head. So in the open house, you don't want to just write off these sellers that come wandering in. Yeah, they probably want one of your little sandwiches or cookies or whatever treat it is that you've got for them. But while they're snacking on that stuff, strike up a conversation with them. Oh, which house it is that you live in here? Oh, the one on there? Oh, yeah, I saw that one driving in here. That's a beautiful home you have. How long have you guys lived there? And you kind of just, again, start peeling back the layers, developing a relationship with them. And ultimately, that's all you want to do. Just develop the relationship, because once you've got the relationship established, that's where the sellers or buyers will start chasing after you rather than you having to chase after them. And now that is a much more long-term strategy here. So if you need money today, that's where you need to get on the phone or knock on some doors for some expired listings, withdrawn listings, or maybe with these make me move people. But in the process of doing all this stuff and trying to acquire this business, any of the people that do not want to sell, it's not that they do not want to sell, they just do not want to sell today. Tomorrow, next year, in 5 years, in 10 years, they're probably going to want to sell in some period of that time. On average, everyone moves every 5 to 7 years. That's the National Association of Realtors statistic, that every 5 to 7 years, somebody moves. So keep that in mind as you're interacting with these people. Yes, they're not business today, but you want to build the rapport, get your foot in the door so they could be business tomorrow, next month, next year, in 5 years, or whenever it is. You'll thank your future self will thank you once they call you up and say, hey, you know what? I do want to buy the home now, or I do want to sell my home now, or whatever that may be. Some of the other ones to take into account here. So your former clients, and now this is especially if you've been in the business for a while. If you've been in the real estate business, going back to what I was just talking about here, following up with people, once you've sold somebody a house, you're not done with them. Because again, keep in mind that 5 to 7 year number, you stay in contact with them, you maybe make a special contact list of them, whether that's in your software, you're just using good old pen and paper. You can do it that way as well if you want to be old fashioned about it, just have a system that does work for keeping track of this. A little bit less likely it may work on paper, but that's up to you how it is you want to keep track of these here. But keep track of not only potential sellers, but also past sellers. And these past sellers, you want to stay in contact with them. Know when their birthdays are. Know when their anniversary is. Know when their home anniversary is, when they moved into that property, that sale date. So that way every year you can congratulate them on X amount of years of ownership, on 1 year of ownership, on 2 years of ownership, on 3 years of ownership, on 4 years of ownership, on 5 years of ownership. And what's going to happen as you're congratulating them on this is they're going to start to remember, well, they'll continue to remember who it is that you are. And especially if you're doing the holidays, you're doing the birthdays, their wedding anniversaries, that type of stuff, all this data it is that you could acquire so you can continue to stay in touch with them. And yeah, they probably know what your angle is, that you're a real estate professional, and especially if going through this, if you provided them a great experience, you should be seeking out referrals from them. And now, how do you make this not so cliche or not so frowned upon, not so taboo, that you're asking them for referrals? You tell them right from the get-go, hey, I want to provide you guys the best experience that you've ever had anywhere, real estate or any industry. I want to be the best experience, best professional experience you guys ever had. So that way when I ask you for referrals after the sale's over, you already have a list of people lined up to give to me that all these people want to sell their home. That's what I build my business on. I build my business on my past clients, and I want every client to be absolutely thrilled and be my biggest fan. You tell them that up front, they're not going to be surprised with you when the sale is over, or even if before the sale is over, hey, I said I was going to wait until after the sale to ask you guys for some referrals, but you don't happen to know anybody right now that needs to sell. I'm sure you do. Who do you know? Come on, tell me. And you kind of start breaking it down that way. But when you've made that initial kind of, hey, the reason why I'm asking for referrals is because I want to provide you the best experience possible, you're kind of tying those two things together, and now they know to expect that question. And the more often it is that you ask that question, the more okay they're going to be with the question, and the more likely they're going to actually give you referrals when they have referrals, or if they do come across a friend or family member that asks them, hey, you know anybody in real estate? Oh, I do know somebody in real estate. Great guy. He sold us our house. He does a great job. Very professional. Matter of fact, I have his phone number here right in my phone. Let me send it to you. Boom. Look at that. And then when you're following up with them and you're contacting them saying, hey, do you got any referrals for me? Oh, matter of fact, I gave your phone number to somebody. Oh, really? I didn't get any calls. Who was it you gave the phone number to? I'll go ahead and reach out to them. And there you go. You're making that connection. And you're like, hey, yeah, Doug and Jane told me that you guys were looking to sell your house. Tell me about your house. I know Doug and Jane, they're great people. Aren't they great people? You kind of start talking about that type of stuff, and you kind of, again, peel back the layers and get them to know you, get to know them, get comfortable with each other, and then ultimately build the business relationship out of that. Couple other things we could do to attract some listings. So another one that's a big one that a lot of real estate professionals go after is for sale by owners, the FSBOs, the FSBOs, for sale by owners. FSBOs, you probably heard that term before. So these for sale by owners, these are people that think they could do it themselves. And they probably can try, they could probably figure it out. Now, whether or not they're going to get the highest price for their property, whether or not they're going to be stressed out completely during this whole process, chances are they're not going to get the highest price. Chances are they are going to be very stressed during this whole process. Chances are they might lose a significant amount of money. This is the largest transaction that most people do in their lifetime. The largest transaction, their largest asset with most Americans is their home. And somebody selling this home for sale by owner, they're basically saying, hey, yeah, look, I'm not a professional. This is really the most important asset, I would say, is probably your body. You wouldn't operate on yourself. No, you'd have a surgeon operate on you. You wouldn't do it yourself. So why would you take your biggest financial asset and do it yourself? So you think of that whole process of doing it yourself, and you don't probably want to be that abrasive with it, and making that's probably a bad metaphor or simile or whatever you call those things for that type of scenario, because it'll probably turn them off. You got to, again, kind of try to peel back the layers with this. Working with the for sale by owners, trying to get a for sale by owner, you might call them up and say, hey, you know what, I've actually been thinking I need to hire a realtor because I'm just overwhelmed with this here. How much do you guys charge? And now, the big thing with for sale by owners is the reason why they probably want to do it themselves is because they don't want to pay a commission. So that's going to be your biggest battle that you have in the for sale by owners, is getting them convinced to pay a commission, if any commission, at least maybe a decent commission or whatever that may be, and also factoring in that they not only have to pay your commission but also the buyer's commission in this whole process there. So that's going to be your struggle with this, and that's why the expired and withdrawns, they're difficult as well to turn them into an actual client. But with the expired and withdrawns, these people are usually okay with paying the commission because they already agreed to pay the commission in the past. The for sale by owner, they haven't agreed to pay the commission yet. They haven't tried to sell it with a realtor and then decided they're going to do it on their own. If they couldn't sell it with a realtor, they're definitely not going to be able to do it on their own unless they just had a terrible real estate professional assisting them. So that's where you're going to have your struggle with it, and you want to think through each one of these steps and understand, okay, what are their hot points? What are the things that they're most concerned with? The for sale by owner is most concerned with not losing their money, with maximizing the value it is they're able to take away from their home. Well, National Association of Realtors says, I know I like to quote their little statistics a lot, but you could actually, I don't know if you guys have access to the Realtor statistics site, which if you're part of the realtors, you should. If not, you'll just have to imagine with me here. So there's these charts that they have that show the pricing, the listing, the sale prices of homes sold with a realtor or with a real estate professional versus homes sold for sale by owner. And there's sometimes as much as a 30% gap, depending on the market, of what a real estate professional could sell the home for versus what for sale by owners on average sell the home for. A 30% gap in the price. A good commission is like 7%. So that other 23% you've got there, that's all going to the seller. You make that point to them, hey, look, I know that I charge money and I know you don't want to pay money. But look, if I could get you 10% more of the value, even just 10%, which is conservative, I might be able to get you 15 or 20% more than what you could sell it for on your own. But if I could get you, even at just 10% more, would you be okay paying me a 6% commission, a 7% commission, a 5% commission, or not even just paying me, paying a 6% commission or whatever the commission amount may be, because I could split and you explain that to them and all that other stuff. But you basically explain that, hey, look, if I get you 10, will you give me 6? So you get to still keep 4? Kind of a no-brainer at that point, right? They're able to get 10% more than what they've been able to get on their own at the least. So this is, again, you want to think of what are the hot buttons of each one of these parties it is that you're trying to turn into a client. The expired and withdrawns, their big issue is maybe their realtor that they had was just terrible. Maybe they had somebody that didn't do a good job. They didn't market the property. They didn't know how to market the property. Maybe this was their first sale they had, and they were just really struggling with the whole process. And whatever the case may be, they probably left a bad taste in that seller's mouth. Now, on the opposite end of this, you might also run into this where they do still like the agent, and the agent's maybe still in contact with them, and they say, oh, well, we told our agent that we're gonna list it with them because we wanted to give them a second chance. Hey, look, I believe in second chances as well, but I don't know if that's gonna be the best bet for you guys here. If what they did before didn't work, what makes you think it's gonna work now? No offense meant in that, but if it didn't work before, what are they gonna do differently? That's going to change things for now. And so you have to understand what their motives are behind this, and what are the things that they're most interested in hearing. You could talk all day and talk all night to these sellers, to these homeowners, but they're really only listening for certain things. They're listening for certain keywords. They're listening for what's in it for them. Does that match up with what it is that they want? And by peeling them back and getting to know them and understanding them better, you're able to tap into what their major motivations are, how quickly they need to sell, if they're more concerned with getting the highest price or paying the lowest commission or the fastest sale or whatever the most important aspect is for them. We're going to take another quick commercial break, but we'll be back in less than 2 minutes with some more ways to attract and obtain more listings. So stick with us. I'm John Christmas. You're watching State of Real Estate.
Are you thinking about a career in real estate? Hey, I'm John Christmas with the Tampa School of Real Estate, and we've helped thousands of people just like you obtain their real estate license. If you're thinking about a career in real estate, give us a call. The phone number is 813-928-0106. Our advisors are standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way they can. Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com.
I have done for my love.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You are watching
State of Real Estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Grow your real estate business. You're watching State of Real Estate. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. So we're almost out of time today, but what I do want to cover is one more tactic you could use to obtain more listings. And this one is especially helpful if you're brand new to the real estate business, and also if you've got a great real estate broker. So one thing to always remember is all the services of real estate are always done by a broker. Even if you're the sales associate or broker associate that's assigned to that deal, and this is your client that you brought to this brokerage, it's still the broker who's the one actually authorized under Florida law to conduct the real estate services. You're just the associate of that broker that's working on the broker's behalf. So what that means is if you leave your brokerage, all of your past business and files and so on and so forth, they're all property of that broker. You don't get to take them with you. Now, if you have any clients that aren't under contract or anything like that, and they remember you and they don't remember your broker, then yeah, of course, you could get business from them again. But chances are, most real estate professionals don't do a good job at following up. Because if that were the case, then there'd be very little new business to be gained in the real estate industry. If everyone did a phenomenal job following up and stayed in touch with their past clients, past sellers, and past buyers in a great fashion, then there wouldn't be a lot of new business created. But what happens, especially when you have agents that jump ship, that change brokerages, chances are they don't have the follow through. And not only does the follow through apply with that brokerage, maybe there's other reasons why they left the brokerage, but chances are they're probably not going to be that much of following through with their past clients. So what you could do is you can go to your broker and say, hey, do you have any of the agents that had left, any of their past sales that we don't have anybody that's assigned to them, then staying in touch with them? Chances are they'll probably have a whole file of multiple agents that left and all of their past sales. So you get the client's past sales and get their info and say, hey, my name is John Carissimo over at ABC Realty. Your previous realtor is no longer with the company, but I've taken over all of the past clients. I just want to check in with you guys here and see how you guys are liking the house. Everything going good? I know it's been a few years since you've moved in there. Just wanted to touch base, see where you guys are, and just introduce myself and actually do a monthly newsletter. I'll send out to you guys about the neighborhood. Is this still a good email for me to send to? And all that stuff there where you're introducing yourself, and chances are you go through enough of these, you're eventually going to find one that says, oh yeah, matter of fact, we actually were getting ready to sell our home again. We were just going to use him again, but yeah, if he's no longer with your brokerage anymore, you guys did a great job selling our home, so yeah, we'll definitely, we want to go through you guys again. Oh, great. What's a good time for me to come out there and come talk to you guys, take a look at the home, do a valuation, and see how much we could sell the home for? And then you kind of get the ball rolling there. And plus, since they are a past client, not necessarily of yours, but of your brokerage, it makes that whole process a little bit easier. So that's another way you could tap into this. Not just the expired and withdrawns, not just the Zillow make me moves, not just the for sale by owners, not just everyone it is that you meet going through this process that isn't ready to sell now that you're going to stay in contact with, but also the past clients of agents that are no longer with your broker anymore. So those are some ways that you get attract more listings, but there's so many ways to attract listings. But you've got to find a way that works, that you're willing to work. That's the only way that the method is going to work, is if you work the method. You want to call expireds and withdrawns? Great, it's a great way to get listings if you actually do it. All of these methods, I know it sounds simple, but they're contingent on you actually doing them. So make sure you're working through it. You're not always going to strike gold with every one of these. You're going to have some downfalls. There's going to be some times where it doesn't work. So just try to stay on top of it. Pick one of these methods it is that you want to focus on and try out, and then stick with it for at a minimum 30 days. But I would say even longer than that to really make sure you're seeing the fruits of your labor being returned to you. Because, especially with a lot of these methods, the for sale by owners, the expires and withdrawns, these are the ones that are maybe a little bit more likely to get immediate results from it, but especially the ones where you're contacting past clients. Don't count on any business today or tomorrow or next month. It probably won't be for a year or so. But a year from now, future John, future you, is going to be saying, oh, thanks for contacting them and staying in touch with them. Just closed the property and got a $10,000 commission check. So glad you did that. Stay on top of it. Keep doing that. But our future selves can't talk to our past selves. So that's not going to happen to you. But imagine that's what would happen, because putting in the work now, you'll thank yourself for it later. So all I've got for you guys on this week's episode of State of Real Estate. Thank you for tuning in today. If you haven't subscribed to this yet, we do this every Friday, 12 noon Eastern time, to help you grow and mastermind and take your real estate business to the next level, get you out there making some money, because we want you to be successful in the real estate industry. And we want you to remember where you learn these tips and tricks from. Even if you didn't take a class with us, for your post-licensing, for your continuing education, make sure you give us a call. Our phone number is 813-928-0106. You can also check us out at tampaschool.com. Again, that's tampaschool.com or 813-928-0106. Thank you guys for tuning in today, and I will see you next Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time, for next week's episode of State of Real Estate. Are you thinking about a career in real estate? Hey, I'm John Chrisma with the Tampa School of Real Estate, and we've helped thousands of people just like you obtain their real estate license. If you're thinking about a career in real estate, give us a call. The phone number is 813-928-0106. Our advisors are standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way they can.
Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com.
I have been for my love.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You are watching
State of Real Estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Grow your real estate business. You're watching State of Real Estate.